Hey guys, welcome to What If Deku Was OP and Can Edit Quirks in Movie. Now this one's a long one, so make sure to bring your snacks, bring some fruit, maybe some vegetables, or if you're like me, bring some chocolate, sweets, popcorn, whatever. Maybe split it up into chunks when you're watching this, but if you stick through it, absolutely amazing. Now, I do have to do the shameless plug. If you're new here, like and subscribe helps me out. You don't understand how much it helps me out, or if you do, that's absolutely fantastic. But it helps me out a bunch. Anyway, I'm gonna let you watch it. So enjoy. To set the scene, Deku is quirkless. He is an absolute disappointment to his rich family. You may be asking what happened to Deku's old family. Well, Deku's old family is still a thing, but now, due to society being focused a lot more on quirks, some stuff has changed from canon. So, his dad now works from home, and his dad has a really powerful quirk. Now, what would this quirk be? It is complete ice manipulation. Now, you may be like, oh, Todoroki has this, but I mean, like, to a degree, like a terrible degree. Literally, he could freeze skyscrapers, and he is known as the one person who can go against the symbol of peace. And he's known as the one person that is the complete opposite to Endeavor's flames, yet they seem to have similar personalities. And number two is his mum. What is his mum's quirk? His mum's quirk is, of course, telekinesis, but it's on a whole new level. Like, you can see her pick up a car and crush her hands. It's, like, sick to watch, and everyone's like, sorry. Don't know what happened there, got a bit carried away. Everyone's like, oh my god, this couple of superheroes, their child is going to be super powerful. Anyway, Deku, he's 9 years old, and he still doesn't have a quirk. People think he's a late bloomer. People think he's just simply a disappointment, and his dad is still trying to train him up anyway, and his dad basically just views him as a huge, big, gooey disappointment, which isn't good, because, yeah. Let's continue on with the story. So, it's Deku. He's 2 days off finishing school, and his parents are like, should we send him to boarding school? Should we make him focus on education? Is there any point? Now, here's a key part. Society is focused on quirks. Now, I'm surprised this didn't happen in normal My Hero Academia, but the new power system is quirks. Whoever has the stronger quirk is stronger higher up in society. So the lower levels are like all the mid-class electric quirks. They're used a lot in power factories because they're carbon-free, greenhouse gas-free electricity. So they're used there. A bit like in Avatar, if you've seen Avatar. I think it's Legend of Korra where they make firebenders create electricity. A lot of basic electric users have been brought up there, and there's like a whole family behind it, which is of course a bit creepy, because, you know, to create a family with the same quirk, there'll have to be a bit of fill in the gaps. You know, if you can't fill in the gaps, I don't know, sorry. Anyway, so society is now built upon the fact that you have a quirk. If you have a strong quirk, you're on top of society, and at the peak is All Might. See, All Might is seen as a symbol of peace, but his personality has been altered a bit by society. But we'll get to that. Anyway, just let's iron things out. Deku's a disappointment. Everyone thinks Deku's a disappointment. Even himself thinks he's a disappointment. He's got low quirk grades in class. Now, this is a little different from normal society too, because there's now quirk grades, which are way more important than normal grades, but normal grades are a thing, and instead of learning English or Japanese for them, they have that replaced with quirk studies, which is like learning about quirks, and English is replacing, I don't know, what you'd usually like PE. So PE is now English, and English is now quirk studies, and quirk studies is now basically everything's replacing each other. So quirk studies is the most important. PE's no longer a thing because in Quirk study you should get exercise. Anyway, I should stop rambling because this is a rambling mess and I want to focus the story up a bit. So Deku, he's in the highest class, he's in high class society. He's rich, but he's a disappointment. No matter how much help, research, or whatever, Deku's seen as quirkless. Now, you may be like 20% of the population quirkless. Well, this is wrong. It's now 1%, and the reason I've done this is because to be quirkless is to be bad. Like, if you're quirkless, you're basically, I don't want to say, you're like disadvantaged at life. It's really impossible to do anything in life, because everything revolves around the quirk. So, anyway, it's Deku's second to last day at school. Whenever he goes to school, even though he's rich, he gets bullied. And to be honest, there's nothing his dad could do about it. No matter how powerful he is, due to his son being quirkless, his whole family, is getting shamed upon. So if he brought it up at school, the school wouldn't really listen to him. Listening to somebody who's got a powerful son as well as a powerful family, which is Bakugo's family, who basically control the school at this point. So Deku is there, and believe it or not, even though he's being called hopeless, he still wants to make it into UA, which is still a school in this society. In fact, it's one of the most important schools in this society, even more important. So Deku gets bullied on a daily basis, like previously mentioned. So after a long day of school and being bullied, Deku walks home with blood dripping from his body. This is gruesome, it's not nice, but there's nothing his family can do about it. He walks home, and this time he realizes that Bakugo and the rest of the bully group, if you remember them from canon, are standing there blocking the short way home, so Deku's to take the long way home. On the long way home, he realizes that there's some weird material on the ground, so he goes off track to go and discover it because Deku... he's had to walk all this way, why not have a look at this weird material on the ground? This weird material is surrounded by what looks like to be an explosion perimeter, though it looks more like it's gone from space and landed on a meteor. This isn't big, it's like the size of a hand all the way around, if that makes sense. So you could fit a hand, the item, and then another hand. And Deku's, he's a bit weirded out by it. So anyway, he picks up this item and he realizes it's quite flat, but quite wide on one side. So one side it's flat, one side it's wide. It's a bit like a card. Then he reads the card, and that's when his world goes to black. He faints. He's knocked out. Then he wakes up in a weird, misty place, and he has a look around. He can't see anything, but all he can hear is a voice in his head. Deku. Deku. Deku hears this and he's creeped out as hell. He's like, oh my god, he knows Deku. Is it Bakugo? Is it Bakugo? Wait, where am I? And then the voice goes, sorry, Izuku Midoriya. Deku is still creeped out. I'm still going to call him Deku because that's a shortened way of saying it and that's easier for me. Deku's still freaked out, looking around, weirded out by the voice. The voice yet again says, Izuku Midoriya. This just continues freaking out Deku. Stop worrying, for God's sake, I need to talk to you. Anyway, so, Izuku, you may not know who I am, but I know who you are. Now, don't be creeped out by the void of me, that's not important right now. All I need to ask you is, are you still quirkless? Deku says, sadly, yes, I am quirkless, but I'm still gonna become a hero because the symbol of peace would, and that's what I'm gonna do. And that's when the voice then goes, kid, give up. Without a quirk, you're never gonna become a hero. In fact, you're never gonna become anything in society. We all heavily rely upon quirks, and honestly, in society, the best you could become is a shop floor worker. Or, I don't know, maybe if you're lucky you could become the manager. But you know this already, don't you? Deku's then like, I'm not gonna listen to you. I will become a hero. I'll become the first in UA to become a hero without having a quirk. And you know what? It's possible. They even They even made it possible in the last year. In the last year, no one's got into it yet. But then again, it's only been around for a year, and I will be the first. The Mist then says, "Will you though? Will you?" And Deku realizes his confidence is shattered. He then says, "No, but honestly, my dad's that disappointed that there's else I can really do, and I don't want to disappoint him. On top of that, I want to live up to. Well, do you know who All Might is? Anyway, he's known as a symbol of peace. He's so majestic. He's so heroic. He's he's my hero, and uh, I want to live up to him." Then the Mist says, calm down, Jesus Christ, pour me a river, cry me a river." And then Deku does start tearing up, and the Mist is like, "Okay, I'm sorry. Right, anyway, the reason I'm here is because I got a proposal, I got an offer. You want an offer, right? I'm a businessman, to say the least, except more of a charity, because I'm here to help you out. See, what you've done, I've just knocked the mic, I apologise. See, what you've done is you've triggered an alert, and it's like an alarm clock, and it's keeping me awake, and I don't like that. So, how can I shut you up? I've got an idea. I'll give you a quirk. See, your body's not ready for that, but we'll sort out the its, buts, and, the little cross the T's, dots the I's. But how about I give you a quirk? What will this quirk do, you may ask? Well, this quirk, it'll give you the ability to add your own quirks. Then, I don't have to do my job. You get to be happy, and I get to go back to sleep. Because this alarm clock is really annoying, and if you dare wake me up again, I swear, I will... Sorry, I'm getting off track. Anyway, so... Is it a deal? Can you just accept the fact that I'm giving you the quirk to be able to edit quirks now? I should tell you the its, buts, and, the little T's like I said. But how about we skip all that and I get to the briefing and explain the quirk to you? Deku is surprised by the confusing rambling of the Mist Monster, but nods ahead. Right, so... like I mentioned, this quirk gives you the ability to give yourself your own quirk. Well, the real ability of the quirk is to be able to edit quirks. Now, this can edit your own quirk. This can edit other people's quirk. It can create the quirks. Of course, it can delete the quirks. You're basically a god, buddy. Would it mean I can get sleep, though? Are you happy with that? Deku then says, wait. You can give me a quirk? Oh, no way! Wait. Would this be okay? And then the Mist says, honestly, I don't care, but you're taking too long. Just tell me, quirk or no quirk? Deku quickly nods yes to the quirk. Then the Mist says, well, like I mentioned yet again, your body it is not up to caliber, it's not ready. But we can sort that. First of all, you've got to wake up. After you wake up, well, I'll let you figure it out. He snaps his fingers. Deku wakes up from the mist. He's realized that the grass patch on the ground has gone, and it's now been placed with just clean, perfectly shredded perfectly shredded grass, which has completely filled in the patch that was there, left by what looked like the card meteor thing. Deku then gets off the ground as he realizes his hands are growing. He gets off the ground as he realizes his hands are glowing. They're glowing a weird yellow color as he feels energy pouring out of every inch of his body. This energy then gets stronger and stronger until it turns into a beam, like you can see on the center screen. Wait, let me make that bigger. Yes, his whole body is out of control, exploding energy everywhere. It's burning the grass up beside him. He can feel pain and power enter his hands as it burns, but also feels good at the same time. I've just got echo and all that, but ignore me. Sorry about that. He feels it burns, but it feels amazing at the same time. He realizes nothing in his body has changed that much. Well, at first. Then he gives a quick feel of his muscles. He realizes they've got dense. They've got strong. There's something there. He's buff now? Then he picks himself up and that he wakes up and he realizes he's not as well. He's buff. He's buff. He checks himself out and he realizes he's a lot stronger than he was before. Then he notices a panel in the right corner. This panel says his name, and then when he stares at it, it opens up to reveal his stats. It says it says his name, his age, and as well next to that it says his quirk. He realizes it says quirkless, and then brackets hidden, and then close bracket, edit quirk, and that's his quirk, and he realized it. He realizes it, and it just says edit, not edit quirk, my bad. Anyway, so he finishes his walk home, and then his dad and mum are waiting by him by the door. His dad has a very serious look on his face, and his mother has a stressed look on her face, and she looks a bit sad at the same time. That is when his dad breaks the awkward silence with, Deku, we need to talk. The reason they don't actually call him Deku, they call him Izuku Midoriya. But throughout this, if I called him Izuku, I would just get confused, so I'll try and use both. But they call him Izuku or Midoriya or Izuku Midoriya because they are his parents. Anyway, his dad then follows up with, Midoriya, we realize you're quirkless. The doctors have said you're quirkless, and you're never gonna get a quirk. I don't care how we look at it, you're just not. And usually in life that means you're pretty screwed. We don't want you to be that way, but we found a way that may let you be something in your life, even though you're quirkless. We found a way that will hopefully, how do I say this, provide you with a future. Now, I know you're not going to like this idea, because we cannot go with you due to our jobs, but we have somebody there who will look after you and care for you, and we're doing this for your own benefit. Deku then gets a worried look on his face, and Deku's mum starts walking away, and when she leaves the room, Deku's dad delivers the bad news. We're sending you to a boarding school. We're sending you to Island. They have a boarding school there that will that will make you the perfect inventor. Now, this, of course, will support you to a rich future, as there is one place where a quirkless dude can go, and that is becoming an inventor for other people with quirks that can actually help society. Now, we understand that this is going to be difficult for you do not have an intelligent space quirk like most of the people there will. But we believe in you, Deku, and if you put in the work, hopefully you can get somewhere in life. Deku's dad is really blunt about this, but it looks like it's eating him from the inside. Deku realizes this and smiles a bit and says, "Thank you, Dad," and then he walks away. He walks away after giving him a hug, walks into the other room, gives Inko Midoriya a hug, and goes upstairs where he sits in his room until he's called down from dinner. But before that call down from dinner happens, he's not going to tell his parents about his quirk just yet. Not until he can learn how to handle his quirk. So anyway, he's up in his room, and that's when he figures out the basics of his quirk. He does this by reading the instruction info next to his quirk whenever he stares at it for a while. It kind of like reads his mind, but doesn't at the same time because it's in his head, if that makes sense. It's a bit of a godly aspect, and he realizes he can't really ask the god about it because that'll wake him up, and the part of the deal was to not wake him up, and he's scared about the consequences if he breaks the deal. So Deku, being the panicked and a bit lost child, decides to scroll through the menu, and that's when he reads what his edit quirk can do. He remembers a bit about meeting the god now, after the shocking regeneration process, which has left him a bit clueless on whether it was a dream, but he's still thinking maybe he's in a dream. But now he's starting to wake up into reality, because why would he dream about something so gross like being sent away? So anyway, he reads the texts, and the texts say he's able to edit other people's quirks, but with a little bit of training. So the actual description is, this mystical ability is one of the gods. Due to Deku's weak and unexperienced with the quirk, he is able to edit other people's quirks. Soon he'll be able to create quirks and, of course, remove them. Hopefully one day he could create his own quirks for his own benefit, and maybe he could even destroy his own quirks. Sorry, other way around. Maybe he could be able to destroy other people's quirks, not just his own. This is when Deku's like, oh my god, this quirk's pretty powerful, so I can edit other people's quirks as much as I like. Oh wow, that's pretty impressive. So, anyway, the next day of school happens. No, sorry. Deku's called down for dinner by his dad. Deku! That is when he walks down for dinner, and Inku Midoriya is there, unable to look Deku in the eyes, and Deku says, Mum, Dad, I just want to say thank you for getting me, well, I guess a future, and I'm sorry I'm so useless, because I'm quirkless, and all. That is when Deku's mum says, no, you're not useless, we just want the best for you. We know you're very, adamant, very motivated, and we feel like if you could put this effort into somewhere else, you'll be perfect. On top of that, you've had training, so we know you can somewhat protect yourself against the weaker quirks in society. Now I feel like it's a good time to fully explain, well, what's happening with the quirks in society. So, I don't know if you could tell, but they are developing a lot more, so they are getting stronger. Like, telekinesis is pretty strong for a quirk, and it could probably rival All Might, but All Might will win in a fight, because he's All Might. But, anyway, so quirks are getting stronger, and there's a lot more similar quirks coming up, like I mentioned, the lightning quirk, because of a lot of inbreeding is happening. I don't know if that word is allowed on YouTube, and this basically makes certain families have certain focused quirks, and Deku's family was a bit of a in the rough situation, but that'll be explained further down in the line, and Deku, yeah, anyway, so society people have a lot more similar quirks, and quirks have been classified into a couple of categories. Of course, there's D rank, which is the weakest quirk, C ranks, which is middle of the range quirks, B ranks, which is high level quirks, A ranks, which is really high level quirks, and S ranks, which is godly quirks, or quirks on the level of God. And then there's, of course, Deku's, which does not lie in any of them, because it's got endless potential, and quirks are ranked also in the ability the users. If the quirk is traditionally a C rank, it can be pushed up to a B rank if the user uses it correctly. If you get me, you get me. If not, I'm not going to spend too much time on it. Just shoot a comment asking the question, and I'll try and answer it as soon as possible, though I am busy, and I'm sorry if I've not made myself clear, but there is a ranking system of quirks, and Deku's does not lie on this ranking system, though if he did, right now his quirk ranking would be D rank, because he can't use it for his own benefit, if that makes sense. So to everyone else, he's quirkless, which is below D rank, but everyone who's quirkless is in D rank, if that makes sense. Well, no, sorry. They're in F rank, which is lower than D rank, and it's where quirkless people, or really useless quirks, will be, like Inko Midoriya in the original show, where she could just use telekinesis on light objects, though quirks like that are pretty rare, because people are getting stronger and stronger, and S ranks are extremely rare, A ranks are mediocre rare, B ranks are the most common, because of C ranks are the most common at birth, but once you train them up, B ranks are the most common, because they're C ranks that have been trained up, if that makes sense. If not, just shoot down a comment and I'll explain it. I'm so sorry for waffling on this subject. Anyway, I've completely forgot where I am. So Deku is basically he's basically he calms down his parents, he eats his dinner, and then he gets ready for his second day of school. Uh, well, no, sorry, his last day of school, which is his last day in wherever my hero's set. I'm so sorry. Ah, this video's gone downhill in quality. I'll try and put it back on track. Anyway, so Deku is bullied for this whole day, but he kind of just laughs because he kind of just laughs it out because he's realizing he's probably not going to see these people for the next 10 months. Bear in mind this not boot camp. This summer school in Island is happening for the next 10 months, and he will be there basically training to become an inventor. And this also means that his UA exam is going to be an inventor's exam rather than a hero's exam. Uh, anyway, so back on track. I'm so sorry. Bakugo's like, you better just one dive off this building, and Deku's like, of course you would say that. Anyway, so I don't need my quote for where I'm going in life. I'm planning to become an inventor, and then Bakugo's like, you're gonna become a scum inventor. Well, enjoy inventing my costume one day. Well, no, I'll be getting it done by somebody who can actually invent. But you know what, Deku? It's a nice dream to have. Deku shoots back at Bakugo like, well, it's more realistic than your dream becoming number one hero, because I reckon my parents are gonna steal that spot when All Might. Yeah. So, let me just redo that. Deku shoots back at Bakugo. Well, it's more realistic than your dream to become the number one hero, and then Bakugo's like, you damn B word. I don't want to say it because I don't know how YouTube will react, but anyway. And then he charges up to Deku, but he pulls back his punches, not wanting to hurt Deku too much because he don't want to get like kicked out of the school on last day and then get kicked out. His chances ruined for UA. So instead, he just nicks the book that he's working on and chucks it into the water. Of course, Deku has been working on these books and he's quite distraught about the books, and he's still making the books, but this time, rather than focusing on the quirks of the people, he's also wrote a lot of stuff on their equipment, and he's now highlighting all of that, so you can basically use that to become a better inventor for himself. Anyway, Deku walks home on the last day of school. Bakugo's actually left quite early today, which means that Deku can go the shortcut way home, which does leave him in quite a predicament, which is the slime monster. So, the slime monster goes exactly the same as it does in canon, with Deku getting the heck beaten out of him. This is then when he's saved by All Might, and this time he grabs onto All Might's leg like he does usually and jumps away with All Might after getting his signature and all that. So he jumps away with All Might, and that's when he lands and he realizes it says All Might's injured. So he asks All Might about the injury, and that's when All Might goes into Small Might form and shows him the basically the injury. This is when he reads about One for All, and One for All doesn't have a rank next to it like any other quirk would. Bear in mind, this ranking's it's like a normal thing that every quirk has, and it's kind of like a ranking within society. But Deku realizes that the system that he has, it's told him about the fact that All Might's injured, and it also reads next to his quirk One for All, which is bizarre because he thought it would be a strength enhancer quirk, and he's a bit confused why the quirk says special next to it rather than S rank S rank, because All Might's quirk is godly in his strength, and he thought it would be one of the S ranks next to his not even like his mother and father, which is they're both A ranks, and society views them as A ranks. If you get what I'm going at. I'm sorry if this is quite confusing. So he does ask All Might about his quirk and why it's not an S rank, and All Might responds with, well, first of all, let's discuss the injured thing. How did you know? Deku says, well, it's a part of my quirk. It's too difficult to explain. So I just knew that you were injured, and I was gonna ask, how did the symbol of peace get injured? Is it just a little cut or something? Because I swear, I swear. Then he goes in his head. I swear my system wouldn't pick up on just a cut. And All Might cuts off Deku's thinking with, well, lifts up his t-shirt. You see this hole there? This wound as well. It's from 5 years back. And Deku is like, wait, that time you saved 1,000 people? All Might says, no. It was this time I fought one for all. It was never truly interviewed on. But anyway, back on track. You need to get away from this place. And you can't tell any of your friends about this. Anyway, I'm leaving. He then jumps away. Deku doesn't get time to ask him about any more questions, and All Might has now red flagged Deku as someone to keep his eye on because Deku is, well, he might be evil or something because he knows about his injury, which no one else does, unless he's maybe working for One for All. So All Might has got his eyes on Deku in a bad way, and he also realizes that maybe he shouldn't give away his quirk just yet, just in case someone like Deku's watching, because he thinks One for All is active again. So in the eyes of All Might, Deku is a bit evil because of Deku's curiosity with his quirk screening. Now I feel like I should probably explain how could Deku see All Might's quirk. Well, whenever Deku walks up to somebody, it says their name and their status like it would for him. His status is normal, which means he's got nothing wrong with himself, and his name is Deku, of course. Well, no, it's Izuku Midoriya. All Might's name was Toshinori, but he didn't mention that. And next to it had injured, so he asked All Might about being injured and all that, and that's when he was shown the injury and all that. I hope I am making sense. If not, yet again, just leave a comment asking. I'll iron it out in the next video, or I'll explain it to you there and then, or both. Anyway, back on track. So his kind of meet up with All Might didn't go the same way as it usually would, but one thing that did happen was, well, no, nothing really happened. Anyway, Deku got sent home, and, well, no, Deku walked home. Of course, the incident with Bakugo happened, but this time, what Deku did, he decided to edit the slime's quirk. Well, no, is it slime? Yeah, I guess it's slime. He did it this time in the battle. He decided to edit the slime's quirk, and this, he threw his bag at the slime monster, yeah, and without thinking, hero instincts kicked in. He held onto the slime monster and jumped into its slime. This is when he pushed out Bakugo somehow, and then then he got knocked out because of breath issues. This is because he ran in and basically expended all his breath straight away. So as soon as he jumped into the slime, he was out of breath and needed to breathe, and then he got knocked out unconscious. This is when All Might saw him, jumped in, saved him, and thought this was some sort of ruse to get Deku on his good side. So basically, the slime monster incident happened the same, other than All Might didn't see it as a hero's instinct, but rather as a trickery. And basically, he just wants to keep an eye on Deku. Deku came out fine. Bakugo came out fine, and Deku got rinsed out and, of course, sent home. And his parents were dead worried about him and got to the incident a little bit late. And basically took him home. They didn't have a go at him, but basically said, "Don't scare us like that again." And he got sent to Island. This is where I'm gonna end this episode. Just to finish up where we started, Deku is being sent to Island. He got a talk from his parents, and his parents are like, well, they've given up on him becoming a hero, even though now he has a quirk, he hasn't had time to tell them about it yet, and instead he's going to Island. He spent his last day fighting the slime monster, and that was kind of like the last straw for his parents as well, and they're definitely sending him because they want him to basically build either Inventor's Gear for another hero, or maybe even build Inventor's Gear for himself, so he can become a hero a lot like Iron Man would, but Iron Man isn't in that universe, so it's a bit of a loose dream. And it was actually a dream of Deku's at one point, so that's why they've kind of got this in him. And Deku realizes they're only doing it for his own good, so he's not mad at his parents for sending him to Island. Anyway, he gets on the plane, and this plane sends him to Island as quick as possible, because you've got to remember his dad's rich, so it's like a private jet, and no one else is on this plane, so Deku, well, other than the pilot and the odd person coming in to check whether he's okay and offering him food and beverages, like a chauffeur, I think they're called. No, that's to do with cars. But we move. They come in and to check whether he's okay, offer him food, and so what Deku does on this plane flight is iron out his editor ability a bit more. He realizes that he can edit other people's quirks, but due to him not having a quirk himself, he can't edit his own quirks, nor can he create them yet. But he realizes that this was told by the god, meaning that it's definitely a thing. It's just up to training and experience. That is also when Deku realizes he has a stats button, so he opens that up. He can't change any of his stats. He needs to do training to change his stats, and he can't add any points or take points away. But he can see his stats, and he can also, he's seen other people's stats, like you check the waitress, is that the word? The plain person, you check the plain person's stats, and realize that he pretty much, the basic for a human is between 100 and 110, and his stats are at 300. Like, all his base stats are at 300, and realizes this was during the explosion, or what I'm calling the regeneration process, if you remember that. And it's what his body's done, it's reinforced itself so it can hold this new quirk that will take a lot of power in the future, but he needs to increase his stats to get that power, and he'll do that by training. But what is kind of a roadblock for him is that he can't really go out training when he's now being forced to focus on inventing due to him being sent to Island. So it's kind of like a loop. But then he's like, okay, then he's like, calms himself down, like, it's fine, I'll figure something out. Anyway, I think I'm almost here. He looks out the window, and that's when his face is like in amazement as the plane circles around this beautiful looking island that looks high tech yet secure at the same time, free yet heavily guarded. He felt like he was in, I don't know, a paradise for inventors, a paradise for people these days. That is when the plane lands on a runway, and he realizes that there's two people waiting behind the glass of the airport. Bear in mind, this is not a big commercial airport; it's a very small commercial airport. So he realizes that there's two people behind this glass, but due to the surroundings, he can't really concentrate, and he can only really point out that it's a blonde-haired girl and a mysterious man in what looks to be glasses. But yeah, again, it's kind of blurry because of the distance and everything like that. Anyway, Deku gets off the aeroplane, gets into the airport, goes through the heavily guarded security due to it being Island, and then can I just take a drink 1 sec? Sorry. And then he meets these two people. The strange man in glasses introduces himself as Professor Shield, and that's when it clicks in Deku, and he realizes who he is straight away, going into fan mode and explaining all about him and what he had to do with All Might and his golden age and all that. That's when Shield is kind of like, hey, awkwardly, and tells him to basically calm down and this is my daughter, Melissa Shield. Melissa Shield, as a confident, bubbly person she is, waves to Deku and says hi and greets herself and basically says, hey, so we're basically the same age, right? And you're here to go to the Inventor's School, aren't you? Well, I'll show you around. I'll show you around. That's when Professor Shield, yes, says, "Oh, that's a brilliant idea. But first, let me explain what I am, basically, who I am to you." Well, you may not know this, but I was very close to your father, a bit like how I was very close to All Might. We were all very close back in the day. So he decided to make me your godfather. Now, if you don't know what a godfather is, it's like a person who's not related to you, but you you would trust them with your looking after your child. I'll fully explain it in the comments if you don't know what it is. It's quite a common term here in the UK, but I don't know whether it's a thing elsewhere, like America or Japan. So I might have to wreck on that later. But we move. Anyway, so back on track. Professor Shield is then like, well, I'm running out of time here, so I'm gonna let Melissa take over, or I'm gonna let my daughter take over, because he is a parent, so he won't call his daughter by her full name because that's a bit weird. But he's like, I'm gonna let my daughter take over, and I'm gonna go get on with some work. That's when Melissa's like, oh, hey Deku, are you feeling okay after the flight? It was quite a long flight. And then Deku then kind of shrugs and says, well, no, it was only an hour or two, so it's pretty. You're just off the coast of Japan, so it's not too bad. It's not too bad. So that's when Melissa takes him on the tour of the whole island, showing him some places. But of course, the expo or the event won't be there, so he's just taking him around the shop, so we're getting a drink, and they're all having a jolly old time. Deku, of course, does have one of those golden cards where the limit on the money is basically limitless, so it pays for all the drinks and everything. If you're wondering, oh, how does money work there? We don't fully know, so I'm presuming it works like normal place. But anyway, that is when I'm going to do a mini time skip, because we've already really seen the island and everything about the island. I'm just going to do time skip to after the tour. That is when Melissa finally asks Deku, so are you quirkless then? And Deku then nods yes. Melissa thinks this is kind of peculiar because he's oddly buff for somebody who's, well, quirkless. And then she's like, oh, guess you like working out. Maybe we can meet in the gym one time. And she chuckles to herself. Then she's also like, so I know you're off to the Inventor's School, right? Do you want to meet here tomorrow and I can show you around there too? And Deku then says, yeah, that'll be nice. So Deku goes home and he's thinking to himself a little bit about the system, a lot about the island, a lot about his new school. He's quite nervous. And then he thinks about Melissa and he's like, oh, okay, yeah, she can teach me the ways, I guess. Oh, someone's got a fast car or a loud one anyway. Let's get back on track, back on target. Sorry, I'm just going to get my notes up. Yeah, so this is where I'm going to do a little time skip. Deku and Melissa, they've talked, they've got closer. Deku's got used to the school. He's started inventing stuff though. He's really kind of behind Melissa, because Melissa's been there for a couple extra years, with her being a slight bit older, but not too old. It's like, I think there's like 2 years in it, so it's not like weird or all. That is when Melissa has got closer to Deku as a friend, and realised that Deku's true aspirations is to become a hero. So she's been working on something for his birthday. Now, I've completely forgot when Deku's birthday is and whether it matches this timeline. I'm just thinking now. No, she's got a gift ready for, just a gift, because he wants to give, she wants to give him a gift. So she's been preparing it for the next couple of months. So that's when Melissa's like, Melissa's working in a lab and Deku asks, oh, what you're working on? And Melissa keeps it a secret. this is after school, so it's kind of like it's not working towards anything on a project. And of course, Melissa is working to make Deku's gift. That is when stuff goes a little wrong, and the gift actually malfunctions and explosions happen. This explosion hits Melissa directly, causing fatal injuries, and really like risking her life. That's when Deku runs over to her, and he starts crying because he realizes Melissa's dying. And this is when Green, if you remember what that that kind of energy there, if you remember what that looks like, that starts covering Deku, but then it turns green and starts going into like surrounding Melissa's injury, because of course it's like an explosion and shards of metal have gone into her stomach and cut her open. So the shards of metal get grown out of the body, if that makes sense, into Deku's hand. He pulls them out, throws them aside, and Deku then stands there with her in her hands, her injuries healing from Deku's quirk, but Deku too distracted to notice it, and that's when they both pass out from loss of energy. Professor Shield realizes this as he checks his lab, because this is all done in his lab, if that makes sense. And he notices this. Professor Shield takes his daughter and Deku to not to the infirmary, but rather to their homes. That's because he just thinks they've both passed out, because both of their injuries have been healed. This is where I'm gonna kind of I'm gonna explain what's happening. So what's happened is Deku has developed a quirk due to his surroundings. The quirk is the ability to regenerate other people. Now, this doesn't work on himself yet, and there is one key reason why. It's because of the amount of energy it takes, and it doesn't take it just from one person, it takes it from both parties. So if Deku's healing, oh sorry, not my mic there, but if Deku's healing somebody, it takes energy from himself and energy from the other person. And then that's when Melissa wakes up, and Deku wakes up, and Deku's panicking about Melissa, and Melissa is panicking about Deku, because Deku was in the same room where the explosion happened, but the reason why Deku wasn't fatally injured himself was because all the metal shards went into Melissa, and then Melissa basically realizes that she's healed, and that's when they both suss out that Deku has a new quirk. And Melissa's dead shocked and surprised for Deku. As soon as she realizes this, she hugs Deku, and they both blush. This is where I'm going to be leaving this, this episode story-wise. Now I'm going to explain a bit where Deku's quirk actually ranks within society, because of course there's I think it's D rank to S rank. Now, due to the rarity of quirks that heal like this, Deku is S rank. He has a S ranked quirk, but that's because quirks are not just ranked off. Quirks are ranked off usefulness, not ability to become a hero, if that makes sense. So if Deku used it to try and become a quote-unquote hero, like as in going around saving people, it will probably be a D rank, at best C rank quirk. But due to it being able to heal almost any injuries, even injuries that take surgery and are pretty much fatal to heal, and he can heal that in an instant, it makes it a really powerful quirk, and that's why I think it should be ranked S rank. But the first thing Deku whispered to Melissa was, can we keep this a secret? So she's going to keep this a secret as, Melissa realizes this. As Melissa everyone knows how the ranking system works. So basically, Deku's got his first S rank quirk, and of course this won't be his last, but as in for him becoming a hero, it's not too useful because he cannot heal himself, but he could become a supporter hero or like a medic or something. but officially it is a S-rank quirk because it can accelerate, heal, and it can also let's say if someone loses their arm, it can heal an arm as well, but that'll probably potentially put Deku in a coma due to energy loss, and it could, well, due to the amount of energy it takes, we don't know the backlash yet. We'll find out a bit more about this quirk next episode. Yet again, one of out. I said a couple of months, but I never really said how many months it's been. So it's been 4 months, and Melissa is literally one step off finishing this robot. So after the explosion, they all recover quickly, and they find out about Deku's quirk, but Melissa promised not to say anything. And that is when Melissa literally, she goes and starts working on the robot straight away. Deku's like, no, 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 don't you dare work on that robot. And Melissa's like, it's fine, I made one mistake, and either way you can heal me, can't you? And they flirt around a bit, they play around a bit, you know. Yeah. I can't believe I just said that out loud. We move. Okay, sorry. Anyway, so, it has been 4 months, and this incident happened 4 months into the inventor's thing. So Deku helps out a bit with the invention. And what is this Deku's gift? What is it? Because it's finished the day after the incident. So what is the gift? Well, the gift is a robot. Now you may be asking, why would Deku want a robot? Well, what this robot is, it's kind of like a sparring partner for Deku. So Deku can work on basically training and all that. Now that Melissa knows that he can edit quirks as well, Melissa thinks, oh, and Deku basically tells her almost everything, like how one day he'll be able to create quirks, and Melissa's like, oh, well, this robot's pretty much perfect for you, so I'm such good at giving gifts, and that's when Deku's like, maybe I can give a gift too. So, I also said something about Melissa's quirk. What Melissa's quirk is, it's a slight increase in cognitive ability. That's just a fancy way of saying she's slightly smarter than the average person. So, what has Deku done to basically edit her quirk? Oh, someone's in the back. Right, so what has Deku basically done to edit Melissa's quirk is he's done a branch off quirk, which has a branch off to a quirk which literally has nothing to do with her increased cognitive ability, and instead makes her live a little. Well, it's like dormant immortality, so it's not full on immortality, but what it's doing, it means she ages 4 times slower, and this is so basically she can live longer. And that's when Deku actually does this to himself, cling on this edit quirk to his regenerative ability. So it's like a string on part of his quirk that he lives 4 times as long. And he doesn't tell Melissa he adds this quirk, but he does ask her. Well, no, he does tell her Melissa he's added this quirk to her. But what he says, he asks her about it first and whether she wants it, and then she's like, yeah, that'll be nice. And so basically, they both take on this dormant immortality quirk, I'm gonna call it. Anyway, so Deku trains with the robot, and that's when the energy kicks in again, and it creates another quirk for him. This is just the system working by itself. And this time Deku starts to kind of get a hold and the grasp of the system and how to create quirks. So what I'm saying is Deku's becoming OP. So he's been training with the robot for a month now. So he's 5 months in. And what's this new quirk? Well, this new quirk that he's developed, by the way, this is all in between his inventor's studies. Though he's kind of not focused on his inventor's studies and has bad grades, which, well, he has, like, middle-of-the-road grades, not like Melissa, who has really high-end grades, and the reason she has such high-end grades is because she's motivated by Deku due to Deku being there and supporting her becoming an inventor. So basically, they're both being motivated by each other, but Deku's middle of the range, inventor's grades. Melissa's really high inventor's grades, but after school they've trained with the robot. Melissa helps Deku train, watches over him, makes sure he's okay, and controls the robot, see what settings it on, pushes up the settings, pushes down the settings. This is all after school, and they're a month in, and that's when Deku feels the energy again, and the system has created another quirk for him. And what this quirk is, it's a simple strength quirk, but Deku edits this and makes him to be able. So the simple strength quirk increases his strength by quite a bit, but then he edits it to be able to increase it tenfold. But the drawback of increasing it is that it's a dramatic speed loss. Though this is kind of like this only kicks in really at later levels, like 100 times, which has the power to destroy the city, because it's not like scale factor, if that makes sense. It's not 100 times his base strength. It's just called 100 times, and I'm sorry I read that wrong. It's 1,000 times, which is able to destroy a city. So, yeah, but Deku's not able to test this out. It's just kind of predictions and Melissa's predictions, because they've read the energy he gives off. The reason he's not able to try it out because they're scared of the effect it might have on Island. And Deku has finally got a grasp on the creation side of his quirk. So he messes around with it a bit more, and this is where I'm gonna skip to another 3 more months. So he's 8 months in total, and that's when he can that's when he gets he's learned to create a quirk all by himself. As for the robot, now he can easily defeat it even on max strength, which max strength is like an average villain. It's not like a high level villain, it's like an average villain. He can defeat that easily, especially with his second quirk, which is a speed quirk. This is just a basic speed quirk, other than the fact it doesn't just increase his speed dramatically, it increases his ability to percept his surroundings. So he can activate this speed quirk and look quicker, see quicker, and the messages in his brain transfer quicker. So if he picked up a pot with the speed quirk activated and the pot was boiling hot, he'd be able to drop it quicker than a normal human. All the base, everything's quicker. You can read books quicker and all that, though the drawback is loss of power, and it does take a lot of mental strain when he's doing, let's say, reading a book, because he's taking in all the information at once. So it's better to read a book normally than it is to read it in this speed quirk form. There's not really a full name for this, so I'm just going to call it speed. No, I'll call it, I'll call it speed. And this kind of activates pretty much naturally to Deku, and it's kind of like a reaction, but you can activate it, like force activate it, and that's when he can fight with it. But the drawback is he loses power, and this is a big drawback because it kind of makes him vulnerable when he's in his speed form. Anyway, so another month goes by and he's in the 9th month, and that's when he learns one more thing, and that's it's easier to create a quirk if it's in his ancestry. So what he does is he creates an ice quirk like his father. So he does this by tapping into his ancestry and creating this quirk. And now you may ask, what's different between this quirk and his father's quirk? Well, his father had a really quite powerful ice quirk, but where Deku's differ is he's able to make certain things with it, and it also has a sense of telekinesis. So, for example, he'll be able to make a block of ice and have it float in the air, breaking quote-unquote the laws of physics, as what his dad would do. When he makes a block of ice in the air, it'll fall straight away, and Deku can also make it fall, so it's kind of like ice telekinesis. He also has perfect control over the ice, being able to make a sword, and the drawback is that the ice can hurt him, first of all, so he can be stabbed by his own ice, and the second drawback is it takes stamina, quite a bit of stamina, but not like a terrible amount. But it means that if he uses his ice quirk, it gets harder to use his regenerative quirk, which he still can't use on himself, and that's because the system is limiting him to kind of, well, the only reason it's limiting him is because the amount of energy it uses is harmful to Deku. That's why it needs two parties. So you know, because it uses energy from two parties, it's not as dangerous. But if Deku was using it on just himself, it would be dangerous because of the amount of energy it just consumes of Deku alone. If that makes sense. If not, yet again, comment if you're listening. Yeah, just drop a comment and I'll fully explain it. Anyway, so just let me switch back to my older notes. Deku gets sent home because it is the end. Because it took him a whole month. He created the Ice Quirk in the 9th month. It took him the whole month to get a grasp of this powers and basically learn the powers. So he's going to be sent home. But on the last day, Melissa asks him to basically go on a quote unquote friendship date thing. It's like just a day out together where they're not focusing on quirks and just having a nice look around, because there is a cinema on Island and there is a food place, so they go around, they have a nice look around, and that's when give me a sec, sorry about this. So they have a little date, they go to the cinema like I previously mentioned, and that's when Melissa makes a move and kisses Deku and says, "Don't forget me when you go to back to Japan. I'm sorry I can't follow you." And Deku goes home. He's greeted off by Melissa and Professor Shield the next day. Of course, Professor Shield is busy this whole time and actually isn't able to follow Deku to the airport with Melissa because he's working on some for All Might. This is, of course, if you've not seen the movie, it's of course the thing to do with the movie, like the quirk enhancer. Professor Shield is working on that for All Might. So Deku gets home. He gets home and he's greeted by his family, and that's when he says straight up to his father, "Dad, I've become a lot of confident recently and I've been training a lot. I want to try the hero course as well as the inventor's course for UA. Is that okay?" And then his face lights up and says, "Well, son, you can try and I will support you all the way." So, this is happening in the next week or so, right? So, just be ready and get training. So, sorry for saying so many times. So Deku gets home, he rests a bit, and he has a week of training. He goes to some secluded place on the some secluded place near the home. It's a beach where trash has been thrown everywhere, and he uses the trash as kind of a barrier to hide as he practices his ice quirk a little bit more, practicing some unique moves we will see in the UA exam, which is going to be happening right now. So Deku, he's walking into the UA exam, and one person is keeping a special eye on him right now. That is the one, the only All Might. All Might looks to be angry. He looks to be full of anger towards Deku, of all people. Now, this is confusing because, well, it's Deku. Deku's the hero, the protagonist. Well, All Might is ready to fight Deku. He's well pissed off, and no one really knows why. Or do we? Can you figure it out? Of course, I'm going to tell you in this part. I think it's going to go a little over the 15-minute mark, but that's fine. It's not like I got anything important on tomorrow. But let's get back on track. Let's focus. So, the UA exam happens. Deku walks in. That's when he trips up. And he trips up. This is when his speed analysis starts working. But Deku doesn't want to use any of his other quirks to save himself. So he's just like, "Oh, okay, I'm going to have to accept the fall." This is because he doesn't want to get told off for using his quirk, because of course, unlike Island, he can't use his quirk without breaking the law, because that's the law. Unlike Island, doesn't quite have that law, if you remember, because of the security on the island. And I've just thought, have I stopped recording and started recording again? Or is that just that time of we'll risk it. We'll risk it for the biscuit. You know what they say. I really hope I've got this thing, because it means... Back on track. So Deku gets saved by... his speed quirk activates. He realizes he could react, but he's just like, okay, I'm just gonna take one for the team and fall. And that's when he's actually saved by a girl. He says, oh, thank you. So what's your name? And she responds, Uraka. The reason Deku's not freaking out is because he's just spent a whole 10 months with a girl. That girl being Melissa, who ended up kissing him. That did freak him out, but you know what? We move. It didn't freak him out. It just made him really nervous because it was the first time he's been kissed by a girl. But just to iron things out, so he's not nervous this time. He talks to Raka quite confidently, and then he's like, "Oh, do you want to walk into the UA exam together?" After he finds out that she is also taking the Hero UA exam, and her name is Uraka. They then walk into the exam together, and that is when he starts to think in his brain about the whole UA exam. And Uraka walks over and like, oh my god, he's very concentrated, because of course it's him, Uraka, and Bakugo. But this time Bakugo doesn't hold that much anger towards Deku, because he holds some anger, but there's not much anger yet, because Deku isn't shown to be quite powerful or have a quirk or anything. But there's anger because Deku's taking the UA exam, and he feels that's kind of rude. But Bakugo thinks in his head, haha, the puny fool is just being forced to take this by his parents, blah 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 blah. Anyway, let's get a move on. So Deku's in UA exam. Ida doesn't talk to Deku this time because Deku wasn't muttering, due to Deku being more composed with himself after fighting the robots. He's not quite as nervous, blah 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 blah. 3, 2, 1, the bell gets President Mike tells everybody to go. This time Deku goes straight away, activating his speed quirk on a low level, so his stamina isn't drained, or his power isn't drained too much. By power drained, I mean when he's using his speed quirk, he has a lower strength output than when he's not using his speed quirk, which it's kind of weird because force times power equals because of laws, so the faster you go is the harder you punch, but this will cause backlash on Deku's arms, so he could theoretically run as fast as he can and punch and do a lot of damage, but of course the backlash on his hands would be unreal because he's got nothing to protect him, blah 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 blah. I hope that makes sense. If I'm not making sense, just yet again ask me in the comments and I'll explain the question when I have the time to. So back on track, Deku runs up to the first 1 point robot and he uses his strength quirk at we'll go 100 times multiplier to completely annihilate it. This wrecks the robot completely, taking it out, and actually almost taking out 3 robots behind it. These were all 1-pointers. That's when Deku's like, okay, maybe I need to call back a bit, so he decides to use 50 times. This is of course lowering it and increasing it when he's fighting a robot again to save energy, and also to save speed, because of the drawback being if he uses the quirk he loses speed, but it's not too noticeable. So Deku takes out all these robots and he racks up the most amount of points, more than Bakugo even, because of the amount of speed and the efficiency he is taking out these robots. All Might is looking from the outside of the arena and he looks really annoyed at Deku. That is when Deku sees Uraka and sees that she's in danger. Realizes it's the girl he was talking to before, and the girl he walked into the exam, and he wants to become friends with this girl because she's quite nice, so he goes in and he saves her. How does he do this, you may ask? Well, literally all he does is he uses his strength quirk to rip into the robot at 50% and climb up the robot's arm, ripping off the armor as he climbs up, like ripping his hands into the armor and kind of using it as a ladder, I guess you could say. And he just walks up to the robot's face and uses 100 times smash, and this completely annihilates the robot. Deku then falls to the ground and realizes that he's going to have to stop himself, but then he also realizes that Uraka is going out to save him, so he just lets Uraka save him as he lands carefully on the ground, and Uraka's there throwing up. That is when All Might can no longer keep in his anger, and he smashes through the viewing window, if you remember where that is, and charges at Deku. He then screams, "I know who you're working for," and punches at Deku, thinking that Deku's basically trying to be a spy for All For One. All Might continues punches, even though he's tired from working as a hero before the exam. Deku realizes All Might is tired. He then says, "I refuse to fight you," and All Might keeps on punching. Deku uses his speed quirk to run away from these punches, but is blown away into some rubble from the amount of air pressure coming from these punches. All Might isn't holding back. All Might then says, "Detroit, smash!" And Deku quickly picks himself up and uses the ice quirk to create a shield barrier. This cracks as the ice goes everywhere. The ice is pushed into Deku and heads towards Uraka. Deku dodges the ice near him, but realizes he's going to have to jump into the way of the ice shards going towards Uraka if he doesn't want her to be hurt. All Might is too blind and angry to realize that he's putting students in danger. This is really out of character for All Might, but All Might thinks Deku's a part of All For One, and his anger is filling him as he spent these 10 months alone, angry, with his pent-up anger building up at Deku, as he thinks he's All For One's predecessor, and as he blames Deku for everything bad that he thinks is going to happen because of his predecessor dying to All For One. Of course, he's got no one to protect, and he's got nothing to lose, and he's had no one to basically calm down his anger like Deku was in the anime. This causes All Might to be very angry, and just continue relentlessly wanting to hurt Deku this whole entire time, blaming him for his predecessor's death, and blaming him for trying to fool the UA system. This of course means that Deku's gonna have to jump in front of the ice, which he does without a thought because Uraka saved him twice already. The ice goes into Deku's body. Luckily, it dodges all his vital organs, but it does cause him to bleed a bit. Deku starts bleeding out, but luckily he can pick himself back up, which is then when All Might swings again at him, going, "Detroit, smash!" Deku blocks it by covering himself into a ball of ice. The ice starts cracking as All Might relentlessly pounds on it at 100% with his face full of anger. That is when Deku decides that he has to help All Might. He first of all makes sure that everybody gets out of the area, making sure to tell Uraka to go through hand signals and face signals, pointing her to the exit. Uraka eventually gets out of there as All Might keeps on relentlessly pounding at this ice shield, which has Deku behind it. That is when he lets the shield melt, and he activates 150 times. He catches one of All Might's weakened punches. This is weakened because All Might shouldn't be able to be in his one for all form, but he is in it anyway out of anger of Deku, and the reason he shouldn't be in it. Okay, just dropped something. But the reason he shouldn't be in it is because he's been saving people before then, so him being in it is actually really bad. So Deku basically uses 150 times to hit All Might. This causes him to go into Small Might form straight away, and he uses his ice to make a big cover of thick, unseeable ice. So All Might's Small Might form is hidden within the ice cube. That is when he then uses regeneration, and though he's bleeding out himself, it didn't hit anything vital, and Deku knows that because he realizes that he's not going to die from bleeding out. So what he does instead is Deku uses his regeneration quirk on All Might. This, of course, drains both of their energy an extreme amount, and what Deku is actually doing is he is using his regeneration quirk to heal his permanent injury. All Might starts coming back to it, realizing what Deku is doing, and that's when he realizes Deku's using up his energy. All Might is then he's kind of like coming back to his senses, no longer in the anger-filled state like he was before, after attacking, and he then starts regretting what he's done. That is when both him and Deku pass out, but the regenerative energy starts covering Deku's body again. What it's doing is a hidden quirk has been activated. Now, this quirk hasn't been mentioned before, because not even Deku knows about it himself, and he still goes on not to know about it. And what I'm calling it is godly or divine protection. And basically, what's happening in his body is being covered in that regeneration energy, and any injuries on his own body is being repaired. Any injuries on All Might's body is being repaired. Even the injuries that were meant to be permanent are being repaired, like he was working on before, but now they're fully repaired. And this causes Deku to use quite a bit of this causes Deku to not use energy, and that's because it's instead using the god's energy, and that's because the god that granted in this quirk has been, well, I want to say woken up, but he's basically, when he gave Deku the quirk, he set some energy aside that was locked behind a good deed, and this is what the divine protection is, and this is being used up now, so it can't be used again unless the god wakes up, which he won't be, because that's a part of the deal. But what this divine protection is doing is it's protecting Deku because he did a good deed, and the god's basically been a good god, I guess you could say. But this is a one-time use thing and cannot be used again. But what it's done, it's fully healed All Might and fully healed Deku. But they're still both passed out. Deku comes to it about half a day later, so it's now the middle of the night. He is told that he's passed the UA exam by the pupil because of the amount of power he's the amount of power that he's shown against fighting All Might. Now it's time to explain why All Might was so angry, and they say it's because someone has actually broken in and created some sort of aura with their quirk, and this is an anger aura. Now this is a new villain I've added to the story, and we'll find out more about him later down the storyline, but we just know that he broke into he didn't break into UA, sorry. He tainted All Might with his anger back when he fought the slime monster, because he was somewhat behind the slime monster attacking civilians like it did. So basically he was behind the slime monster and behind All Might's pent-up anger and why he fought everybody. All Might is feeling really bad, and he's basically told by everybody that what he did isn't his fault, but All Might still feels like it's his fault anyway. So he comes into Deku's room after he comes to, and that's how he's told about him making it into UA. And that's when All Might follows it up by, oh, yeah, and I forgot to say, thank you for saving me, Deku. You don't understand, but I remember you jumping in front of the ice. As a hero, I should have done the same, but as you know, I wasn't thinking straight. Anyway, I no longer feel worthy for this quirk. Well, no. It's not that I don't feel worthy, it's that I feel like, even though you've healed me, my time with the quirk is running out, and I feel like I should pass it on. Now, I've already offered it to somebody else, but they refused, and now I'm starting to see why they did. It's because fate has already decided who the owner of this quirk should be, and Deku, well, no, he calls him young Midoriya, and young Midoriya, I think the owner of my quirk should be you. That is when Deku's like, whoa, wait, what? What about quirks and owning quirks and whoa, what? And that is when All Might fills him in about One for All and how he can pass on the quirk. And that is also when he says, anyway, I feel like you're worthy enough for this quirk, and I can tell you're not with One for All. All for One. If you was, you wouldn't have healed me, the owner of One for All. So that's why I'm asking you whether you want my quirk. Now, I've realised that you're not normal, are you? You're some sort of prodigy. So whether you can use this quirk for the greater good and make it stronger to take out One for All for One, it doesn't really matter. But the spirits within the quirk are telling me to pass it on to you. So Deku, I'm going to ask you this from the bottom of my heart. I'm pretty much begging you here. Will you take One for All? This is, of course, where I'm going to end into the video. So, I realised that there was some issues with plot holes or plot inconveniences, or just me neglecting to tell you some information. So, the information is, of course, why couldn't Deku just edit away the downsides of a quirk? Well, the reason is because every quirk is a muscle. That's how it's been described throughout the whole show. So he can't edit out the negative impacts of the quirk because quirks run like muscles, and this is also because he doesn't have fully control of his edit quirk, and it's a bit like an untrained swordsman. He has the sword, he can cut stuff, but he can't cut it precisely, and basically the marks being left behind is a negative impact of the quirk. Once he gets a better hold of this quirk, he may be able to edit the quirk so it works without backlashes. But the reason that takes well, by backlashes I mean like Speedy can't use strength, as in his strength quirk. Ice uses stamina, regenerative abilities use stamina. But the reason he can't do this normally is because it's changing the fundamental meaning of what a quirk is, meaning that it's going to take a lot of practice with his edit quirk. And now you may be asking, what's the downside of the dormant immortality, which is Deku's and Melissa's dormant immortality, and the drawback is that there isn't one, and that's because I've... Okay, right, so hear me out here. There is only a negative impact for active quirks. So this is like an active quirk is like Todoroki being able to shoot. Well, no, we'll use Mina as an example. Is it Mina? Mina? However you pronounce the name. Mina. Sorry. However you pronounce the name, but we'll use her as a good example for this. She can shoot slime, she can ride slime, all that. so eventually she gets tired and can't shoot any more slime, I'm presuming. Wow, that sounds suspicious. Anyway, her passive ability is that her skin's like resistant to slime. This doesn't ever go because it's like part of her body, if that makes sense. So I'm using Dormant Immortality as a passive quirk, meaning that it doesn't have a drawback. I hope that makes sense. If not, just shoot a comment and I will clear things up. I will have a response ready that makes sense, because I would have thought of it and written it down, which I have done here, but I don't know whether I'm saying it correctly, nor whether I'm pronouncing the words correctly. Pardon me, sorry. Anyway, so let's get into the story. So again, sorry. Right. So just picking up where we left off. The exam is over and everything's cleared up, and All Might's talking to Deku. This is after the exam, and he offers him one for all. Deku doesn't refuse, wanting to get as powerful as possible because he's fearful. The reason he's fearful is because he's heard about all for one from All Might, and if it's as powerful as himself, and if All Might thought that Deku was a disciple of All for One, he's scared about the power of All for One. Number two is because there's always Deku thought All Might's power was stood by itself, but now he's learnt that there's two sides to All for One and One for All. Now that he's learnt that there's two sides, he's fearful that someone else may have the other side of his power, if that makes sense. So like two sides of the same coin, so every power must balance on the hero side and the villain side. It's a hidden fear of Deku. Number three wants to become the symbol of peace, so having the symbol of peace's power will be a lot more easier to explain than Deku having an edit ability quirk, if that makes sense. So Deku having multiple quirks would be harder to explain than Deku just focusing on All for One at the minute. So he realizes that him just using All for One throughout the whole whatever will just be easier to explain, and hoping that none of the students really noticed. Of course, he's gonna have to sort out Uraka, because she definitely did notice, but the rest of them could be just chalked up to I don't know, someone else was helping out, or some lame excuse that Ida doesn't really believe, but everyone else just eats it up because, you know, that's how society works. Why would UA lie to them? So I can't remember what Deku takes one for all. This then leads me on to this leads me on to Deku going home, and that's when he gets a call from Melissa. Deku is like, "Oh, hi Melissa, how you doing?" Melissa says, that's fine, but kind of irrelevant at the minute, because of course, how did you do for UA? And Deku responds with, well, I don't fully know yet, but well, I think I got in. And that's when he also tells her about his day, and of course he mentions the fight with All Might, and how he technically won the fight and healed All Might. And Melissa's just shocked, but then she kind of smirks and thinks to herself, well, this is Deku we're on about. He's literally given me dormant immortality, which she is grateful for. The call ends, they both go to sleep, and the first day of UA happens. You may be asking yourself, James, if they went to the UA exam, bloody hell. Sorry, James, if UA started, what did they do in between the UA exam and the beginning of UA? Well, I'm here to answer that, because I just ended it realising that I've left a bit of gap here. And let me just pull up my notes real quick. Okay, no, that's Discord. Sorry about this, very unprofessional of me, but well, of course, there's a time skip here, and that is just Deku training. He does try and edit the One for All quirk to see what the downfalls are, and that's when he finds out the downfalls of One for All are the backlash it does on the body. So this is, of course, going for the backlash on the weak body, like how Deku's arms will break. But that's when it has like brackets next to it and says equilateral. No, that's not the word I'm looking for. It says neutral, sorry. Neutral. We'll just go neutral. And then Deku looks into it more, and he realizes because Deku's body is reinforced, because Deku's body is reinforced from the time he edited his quirk, well, his whole body edited with the energy. If you remember when back in like episode 1 or 2, he had that big spurt of energy and his whole body got reinforced so he could take the edit quirk. Well, that reinforced him enough to take the One For All quirk, meaning that he's perfectly fine in the strength department to handle 100% of One For All. And then he realizes that there is a mystery section of One For All that's all blanked out with weird text that he's never seen before, and he just thinks it's a glitch within the panel, but then he thinks a glitch within the God's power is a bit weird. Maybe you should ask All Might about this. So yeah, that's what he's got up to within the time skip. So UA starts. Bakugo is angry at Deku because Deku shouldn't be able to be in UA. That's not fair. How does he get into UA even though he's quirkless? But before Bakugo can do anything, Ida walks up to him and says, "Oh wow, dude, you took on that robot with some other people's help. That's pretty impressive." And then Uraka goes, He didn't get help when he took down the robot." And then Deku's like, "Oh, there's that girl I saved." He then pushes her out of the classroom and quickly tells her that, "Oh, can you go with Ida's story that other people helped me? I'll explain why later." That is when Aizawa walks out and then looks at Deku with, like, you know, the evil eyes and tells him, "Can you get yourself and that girl back into the classroom?" And Deku says, I'm sorry. So Deku gets back into the classroom, and that is when Aizawa starts telling them things like, "Oh, welcome to UA. I can't believe it took you guys so and so to show up. I think it was like 3 minutes. And on top of that, someone had the audacity to go outside the classroom, even though I was waiting for them to shut up." Unbelievable. That is when Uraka. Well, no, that's when Aizawa continues speaking. And he mentions the fact that they're going to be having an examination today, and Uraka breaks up like, wait, don't we have a orientation speech? And then Aizawa's like, "Do you think heroes have time for an orientation speech?" Anyway, so today we will be doing an exam, a fitness exam like you would do in a normal school, except there's one big change, and that's the fact that you can use your quirk this time. Before this happens, Deku, we're gonna have to have a talk with you. Aizawa takes Deku out of the classroom. Aizawa's like, "Okay, so we know about you, and select staff know about you inheriting One For All. I've been told to, as your homeroom teacher, to basically tell you to limit your powers. You can only use 50%, and this is really at a push. Now, I'm going to excuse you from the testing today, because we don't want you harming any of the other students, nor do we want any of the villains knowing about your power. Instead, we're going to take you to one of the hidden training facilities we have around campus that the heroes don't know about yet. The reason we're doing this is to keep you out of the sight from... Sorry. We're taking you to a hidden facility that not many heroes, never mind villains, know about yet. This is so we can keep your ability and everything about you a secret. This is because you're a prodigy. We don't want the heroes knowing how powerful you are yet, because we don't want the heroes, we don't want society, and we especially don't want the media or villains to know how powerful you are yet. This is especially for the villains, is because they may train more, it may inspire them to get stronger. See, we've already got some intel on them, and we think that they're planning to take out All Might. They find out about you, then they plan to take out even stronger people. So we're going to take you to a hidden facility like previously mentioned, and we're going to get All Might to train you up. Well, since he's no longer injured, he should be able to use his power for, we predict, around 4 or 5 hours a day. This is, of course, for training you, taking away all the time he uses saving citizens and stuff. So you should be able to get a good few hours training him, and of course, if any of you get hurt, we will use recovery quirk rather than your regeneration due to the drawbacks that we have learned from the UA exam. I hope you understand this. As for cover, we're going to say that you're ill for this training examination. Deku then gets sent away to this hidden facility and trains with All Might. The training he does focuses mainly on One for All and how he can utilize it in special ways. Deku learns about the Detroit Smash and how to successfully Detroit Smash, as well as starting to learn how to use a power in the air. This is because Deku's not really had a strength and speed movement quirk together like he has before. He's had it separately but not together, so he's mainly just practicing how to use One for All, basically getting used to the power, and also learning how to control its levels a lot more accurately, so how he can control rather than just using 100%, and he's also learning how he can route it throughout his whole body. Deku learns this pretty much within 1 day, but he's still shaky on it, so he don't fully know it. So I'm just going to call it full cowling, though they do not call it full cowling yet, because they don't see it's a special move, more just Deku controlling his power. Like in the anime, it's kind of a special move, but Deku just, whenever he activates One for All, his aim is to use quote-unquote full cowling immediately. Number 2, he's kind of starting to get control of it in the air, and if you're wondering what this facility is, it's the concrete jungle, I think it was called, the concrete facility. So they've also got Cementos there. On top of that, the only people that know is Aizawa, Cementos, and the certain people on the scoreboard, so like Nezu and all that. They're the only ones that truly know about Deku's power. The rest it's trying to be hidden from them because they don't want anybody to know about Deku's power because of how powerful he is. They're scared if the villains try and match that power, it might cause them to be motivated to get stronger. This is as for the Aizawa exam, everything goes the same other than Deku isn't there, so Mineta gets kicked out of UA. This is pretty basic because Mineta's pretty much a creep. So Deku, after this training exam thing, after the training sequence, Deku goes back to class, and everyone asks whether Deku's okay, and that's because the excuse for him going was that he felt sick, so he was sent to the nurse to see whether it's okay, and Deku gets told about this excuse, so Deku's just like, yeah, I'm fine, I guess it was just nerves or something. Deku realizes this excuse isn't going to hold up. Anyway, so the day goes on as normal until the end of the day. Deku asks Uraka to go on a walk. This is because Deku wants to explain everything about his quirk, which he does to her, and Uraka doesn't quite know why he's keeping it a secret. And that's when he says, well, it's not me that originally wants to keep it a secret. When it comes to One for All, when it comes to the strength side of my quirk, but it's basically, he's explained that he can edit quirks to Uraka, and then Deku's like, oh, I want to keep it a secret because people find it weird that I have this ability, and I don't want to weird people out, and Uraka's like, yeah, that's fine. And then he's also like, oh yeah, I don't want anybody to think they can abuse me for my power as well, and Uraka's like, oh yeah, I guess I understand that. So Deku had just got back from his training with All Might, so now we're going to go into the All Might training arc. So what happens in the All Might training arc? So first of all, he gets given weights made by the support crew. That is because he's a lot more in tie with the support crew. The reason he's a lot more in tie with the support crew is because the support crew is Deku's like second home. This is because Deku does have a kind of half summer school degree in support items, so he makes his own support items in the meantime. This support item just limits his power. It does this through weights, like I've just mentioned, so I don't know why I re-mentioned it. I deeply, deeply apologise. That I am spending more time apologising than I did on the mistake, so let's get back to it. So, oh my god, I've just eaten this pasta and it's really made me feel sick, so if I'm off track, blame the pasta. Can you get food poisoning from cheese? I'm gonna have to search that up after this video. So, anyway, sorry for getting off track. So anyway, Deku, he hangs out with the support team. What this weights do is limits him to 5% power. So these are big weights, and they're found throughout his costume. Another thing that it's a bit like you know how Goku wears a weighted suit. Deku's doing the same thing, but this is A, so it's fair for the students, and B, so that he can actually fight the students, and C, him fighting the students increases experience. And because he's still using One For All, it means he's using his muscles, and he has to use One For All 100% because of the amount of weights on his body. Yeah. Because of the amount of weights on his body, it makes him, he still has to use 100%. Blah, 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 blah. Summary. It means that he can advance with the quirk a lot more quicker than he usually would, which means he'll unlock all the other side quirks a lot more quicker. So I'm just, he's just using weighted suits. I don't know why I had to make it so complicated. If you're wondering what the tech behind it is, it's not like gravitational, so it's not gravity changing, pulling it down. It's actually, oh, what was I gonna say? It's density, so the items are more dense. It's the same clothing, but it's more dense. And this was actually technology that was helped developed by Melissa back when they were on UA, because I realised after Melissa made the robot, she wasn't really doing much. So what she focused on was making dense armor for Deku's training, and she'd finished it and got a private jet. So Melissa went to see whether Deku was okay after training with All Might, checked up on him, gave him the dense materials, which Deku took to the sport class, which they put into his whole suit, blah blah blah. So basically, in summary, he has more dense material, so he could only use 5% for the All Might training exam. And on top of that, he got to see Melissa again. Now, there is a protocol which is on this suit, and it's that most of the weights are in his upper body. This is so that if he gets into trouble, he can take off his shirt. And number two, there is, like, you know, you get like a tight undersuit, like a quite, you know, like something you would basically wear something underneath it that's comfortable for him, so that if he has to get into an emergency, he can unstrap it all and get the weights off him, so he can use all his power or partly of his power by just taking his t-shirt off. This only covers his private area, if you know what I'm on about. The reason I'm saying this is because he might have to lose the weights. You'll never know. He might have to lose the weights to fight somebody. So anyway, okay, right, let's get into it. So the UA training exam, how does it go? Right, so it starts off with Bakugo, Bakugo, Ida, Uraka, and Deku all be putting against each other. The rest goes the same, just so you know. I just hit my mic, I apologise, but the rest goes the same, just, it's just the Bakugo versus Deku fight that changes. So, how does it change? Well, it all goes the same up until Bakugo and Deku go against each other. Bakugo goes in for a right hook. Deku catches it and this time swings Bakugo towards the ground. Bakugo saves himself with an explosion, realising what Deku's doing, and realising that if he did hit the ground, it will mean a lot because of Deku's One For All, even though it's still only limited to 5%. when he's swinging Bakugo down at full pelt, it'll do a lot of damage because it's more than Deku would usually. So Bakugo saves himself with an explosion. Deku loses grip loses grip due to fatigue from the use of his quirk. Because of the armor does cause fatigue because he has to use 100% blah 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 blah. So he loses grip due to Bakugo's force against him and his fatigue. Bakugo gets free and straight away unleashes a huge explosion on Deku. This is when Deku uses his speed quirk to get out of the way. This weakens him stamina wise, but it also weakens Bakugo because he's used one of his mega gauntlets. So what Bakugo does to trick Deku is he uses his mega gauntlet again, but this time he aims at Uraka, so Deku is to save Uraka. He does this by using his speed quirk, catching her and pushing her out of the way, meaning that he gets caught in the explosion. This explosion deals a lot of damage to the fatigued Deku due to the pure weight of the armor. Now, I'm not going to release the weight until a bit later, but basically this material is super strong due to the density put into it, blah 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 blah, some science malarkey. It wasn't destroyed by the explosion, but Deku is damaged quite a bit. All Might doesn't stop this fight because he knows Deku can beat Bakugo some way or the other. So what Deku decides to use is 5% strength with a little bit of strength multiplier. And what this means is that, Deku decides to use 5% of One For All, but he focuses it on his legs. And on top of that, he activates his speed quirk. So what Deku's trying to do is get behind Bakugo, so of course, he runs behind Bakugo before Bakugo can notice, due to Deku's speed quirk boosting the speed of One For All quite a bit. And then Deku drops the speed quirk and punches with One For All. The reason he drops his speed quirk is because, if you don't remember, his speed quirk does lower his melee. Now I feel like his strength. Now I feel like I should explain the speed quirk a bit more because people were confused in the comics. Comments, not comics. Jesus Christ, this pastor's gone straight to me. Yet again, follow me on TikTok. I can't believe I'm saying that. I've gone to the dark side. Unless you use TikTok, which is such a kind of cool place, but at the same time it's kind of not a cool place. It depends what side you're on. Anyway, back on track. So how does his speed quirk work? Well, when he runs at a speed, he gets a lot weaker and a lot more vulnerable. So of course, mass times speed equals force, but if he punched somebody using his speed quirk, the amount of recoil that he'll get would not make it worth it. So he'll just get a if he punched somebody with speed, his arm would break because he has nothing protecting him. On top of that, if he used One For All with speed, to punch something, it will break because of the recoil. The reason it works with his legs is because he's not actually hitting anybody, and I know that sounds really weird, but how the speed quirk works is he loses all strength everywhere else but his legs. Now, this is kind of a retcon, but I'm sorry about that, but he loses strength everywhere else but his legs because all the strength is focused within his legs. And this causes the rest of his body to basically turn into a target, I guess you could say. Right, now, so anyway, he runs behind Bakugo, and that's when he swings back and charges at One For All 5%. This 5% of One For All actually being 100%, but because of the weighted, it's not actually 100%. I don't know whether that holds up math-wise, but it's good enough for me. It's not really a true you get what I mean. I'm sorry if that don't really make sense, physics and maths wise. Anyway, so this hits Bakugo right in the back where he's open up and he doesn't realize. Well, he kind of realizes it, but it's too late for him to do anything. Bakugo gets hit to the floor, and that's when Deku uses his speed quirk because, of course, it does speed other functions within his body, but all the internal functions, so how quickly he can react. But it cannot help his. It's kind of weird to explain. So his whole stats are focused into speed, because if you remember, I did stats. It's a really weird quirk how it works, but basically what it does, it makes his whole body a target when it comes to being hit. But and he can't hit himself, but he can run away. And of course, the shrimp quirk is the other side of that, and he can hit really hard, but he can't really run away. And then the one for all side of it is one for all, so it's a mix of both. If that makes sense. I'm so sorry I keep on retconning it and changing it and spending so much time on it, but I'm gonna be honest, I've made it really confusing for myself. Anyway, so he hits Bakugo to the ground, and that's when he jumps on top of Bakugo, getting him into a police lock and asking Uraka to wrap tape around him. Uraka wraps tape around him, and that's the Bakugo captured. So next it's to capture Ida. So Deku and Uraka slowly search each one of the buildings until they find the building with Ida in it. They realize it's empty. So what Deku does straight away is 5% one for all to knock down the door. The reason he does this is so that Uraka has a projectile to throw at Ida. Then he asks Uraka to throw the projectile at Ida. Ida then reacts, going to hit Deku, but Deku uses 5% of one for all to hit back, causing them to kind of get into a lock, and then that's when Uraka comes swinging in with the door. The door hits Ida, and then Deku runs to collect the bomb. This of course gets them MVP because not much damage, and does discredit Ida a bit because of the fact he doesn't get MVP and the fact that he got beat so easily. So of course the All Might exam has just happened, so I am going to do a little time skip to USJ. So Deku's on the bus, and this time Bakugo don't really pick with him. This is because Bakugo got absolutely annihilated, like it wasn't even close. Like, it's to the point where people are feeling pity over him because of how much Deku beat him, which really knocked Bakugo down a lot of pegs, because you know how he's really overconfident and he's like, I'm a high school Chad. He's not really that much anymore. He'll gain his confidence back, but Deku's a little bit overpowered. So they all walk into the arena, and 13 starts explaining the USJ and what it all is. That is then when Deku realizes that somebody who's usually in this training exercise and stuff like that isn't there. That's because it's All Might. So you may be asking, since All Might's no longer injured, whereabouts is he? Well, All Might's doing All Might things, and now he's got his power somewhat back. He's still losing it because he's giving it away to Deku. He's now going around saving people, and he's been really He's been really irresponsible. That's a word I'm looking for. And he's just lost track of time saving people, and he's still saving people as we know it. He's not picked up his phone as well, which is just not, it's not good All Might. That's mainly because when he's heroing, he doesn't carry his phone, because he would carry your phone when you're heroing. Anyway, so All Might isn't there, so 13 explains about the USJ again, even though just, you know, where I'm just gonna take a quick sip of my drink. So, just to move it along a bit, that is when purple portals start appearing into the sky, and villains start raining down from them, as well as what looks like the main ringleaders with a ginormous, monstrous looking creature, the person that looks like the ringleader, and the portal guy who looks like he's summoning down the villains. They all seem dead weak, but the aura coming from the muscled up creature that doesn't quite look human is immense, to the point where even Deku thinks it's similar to All Might's. So, that is when they all get separated, of course. Everything else goes normal for everybody else, other than Deku and Tsuyu. So what happens with Deku and Tsuyu is, of course, this is a training exercise, so Deku is wearing his suit. He takes off his suit that has the highly dense material that makes him weighed down, so he can only use 5%. Immediately, he takes it off, realizing that they're real villains straight away. Then he gets Suyu to throw him up in the air. The reason he's done that is because he does not know how much percentage he can use to A, get high enough, and B, not damage the boat, because if he damages a boat, it has a chance of putting Suyu in danger. So he gets Suyu to fling him up in the air, and that's when he punches down on the water, which causes a... This is using 100% of One For All, which causes the whirlpool effect, and as he does this, he tells Suyu to basically grab onto him, and he, with a tongue, of course, and then he gets them both to land, and he does this through a mixture of slight flicks, so basically, he uses One For All to control himself in the air, which is quite impressive, and Suyu's like, whoa, when did you learn to use your power that, well, impressively? And Deku's like, well, I mean, I've been training by myself, trying to not make the fact known that he's been training with All Might that much, because favoritism isn't really meant to be shown. Sorry, my mouth's drying up quite a lot, and it's also 2:50 in the morning, so it's not the best time to be recording this, but hey, I've been writing the script for however long. I'm quite... Okay, yeah, focused. Right, so, this causes all the villains to be chucked into one big whirlpool, and Deku and Suyu both run away. This is because they, well, Deku wants to get to the main threat, and Suyu doesn't want to fight the villains that she technically doesn't have that much of a chance against because of the sheer amount of them. So Deku and Aizawa get to the battle. Deku and Suyu get to the battlefield. That's when Deku tells Suyu to stay back a bit. Deku peeps around the corner to see Aizawa's hurt. This really angers him because Deku doesn't like to see his teachers getting hurt, and now he's got power. He realizes he can do something about it. So Deku immediately activates 100% full cowling, and also puts a strength quirk behind him. This causes him to walk a lot slower as he walks towards the monstrous creature and the Shigaraki. I'm just going to call him Shigaraki, as well as the portal-looking dude. He walks towards him and says, "How dare you hurt my sensei?" He's struggling for breath because he's not used this much power in a while. It's getting harder for him to walk as he's getting slower as his strength quirk is increasing. He decides to let it go. So he can get closer to them quicker, not making himself an open target. You get away from him! That's when he realizes if he does anything, he might hurt Aizawa. So what he does straight away is make sure to get Aizawa out of there by faking a punch, but instead using his speed quirk to get Aizawa out of there immediately. This of course gets the Nomu's attention as Shigaraki's like, "Get the boy." So Deku runs away with Aizawa, placing him where Suyu is, and then runs immediately into battle. He turns off his speed quirk, rather focusing on One For All for the speed, and then he puts a little bit of strength behind it and punches the Nomu. He calls this one Improved Detroit Smash. He puts a lot of strength behind it, which completely nullifies his movement speed for a bit. This leaves him an open target, but luckily a dust cloud is covered. This is because he's left a crater where he's punched the Nomu into the ground using more than 100% of One For All due to his strength increase quirk. Deku immediately realizes this is not fully taken out the Nomu, and he could get up at any second, but due to the amount of rubble keeping him in place, the Nomu shouldn't get out. Deku then stares at Shigaraki and Portal Dude, getting even angrier at him as Portal Dude and Shigaraki stand there, shocked at the pure power of this kid. He then shouts, "Imbecile kid!" as Deku charges towards him, but because he's so angered, he's still got his strength quirk activated. This causes him to be too slow, and Deku realizes from inexperience he's let the Portal Guy and Shigaraki get away because they've had enough time to react due to Portal Guy's quick reaction skills. Right. Deku then walks over to the Nomu, realizing that it could wake up at any second. He decides to scan to see what quirks it has. This is because he's curious, because he can take a blow from All Might and still be, well, still be able to be somewhat conscious, though the Nomu's not able to move. That's when Deku realizes it's being controlled. This is because when he opens the edit panel, he realizes beside its name, it says, sorry, pardon me, it says species, human. This angers Deku so much because he realizes that the Nomu's human. Deku runs into the crate before the Nomu can fully get up. That's when he realizes what he's got to do. The rest of the UA heroes get here a little bit earlier because of the loud rumble that Deku caused earlier, and on top of that, Shigaraki and the Portal Dude were distracted a lot more making it a lot more easier for Ida to run away. Ida's also a lot more faster because he's been training due to the strength shown by Deku. Sorry, I've wrote that long of a script, I've completely lost where I am, but I've found it again, so I do apologise for that mini break there. Right, Deku walks up to the Nomu, and of course he realises what he's got to do. He uses a low amount of One for All to blow wind around everywhere. This causes what was once settled dust to turn into a dust cloud. This also attracts the attention of Cementos, who knows about Deku's quirk somewhat, and he decides to he realizes Deku's doing something, so he covers in a cement wall. This is when Deku starts to try and edit the Nomu's quirk, but he realizes editing the Nomu's quirk will change its biological DNA, causing it to potentially die unless it was hooked up to some life source. That's when Deku realizes he's going to have to use his regeneration quirk. He fills his whole body with regeneration energy and drags energy from the Nomu, causing them both to use energy as he envelops both their bodies in this golden pure regeneration energy, which then turns somewhat green as the Nomu is completely covered. Its figure cannot be seen. Deku starts editing away some of its quirks. You hear Deku's screams of agony, not because it's causing hurt, because of the amount of strain on his stamina. He manages to pull through though. He's edited away all the quirks of the Nomu. The Nomu's now become a human. All Might sees the cement cage and as soon as he gets there, runs inside. He's been informed about the whole situation by Cementos, as Cementos opens the door to let All Might in. Deku's used up all his stamina as All Might comes in and looks at Deku as he's fainted on the ground. He also sees an outline of a human who's also fainted on the ground. He checks both their pulses to see whether they're alive. He's passed out, but he's still breathing. All Might holds Deku in his hands. Then he says, "You've been." Then he says, "You've been a good hero, kid," and and smirks a bit happily. He then he gets them all out of there, and they're all taken to a hospital. Sorry about that. Yet again, lost my spot. A whole day has passed as the news has been spread around. It's only been spread around to close friends of Deku, and this is of course Melissa. Melissa flies away straight away, taking an overnight flight to Deku's hospital room as Deku sleeps. He's not quite in a coma, but he's used up all his stamina that he could have possibly used, and he's risked his life trying to, well, no, not trying to save, saving the Nomu. He's been sleeping for ages as Melissa sleeps by the side of Deku's bed, and Inko Midoriya asleep with her head against the wall in a chair. Inko's also, Melissa's also in a chair. That is when Deku wakes up a morning after the fight. Bear in mind, the fight happened early, like 11 o'clock ish, so he's been asleep for, I don't know, he's been asleep for at least a good 20-ish hours. Deku wakes up on the chair as Deku wakes up in his room, and he starts to move about, of course, because he's just woken up after 20 hours sleep. This wakes up Melissa, who gives him a hug straight away and then hits him and says, "Don't you ever do that to me again." This causes all this commotion, of course, wakes up Inko Midoriya, who bombards him with questions, asking him whether he's okay, and she's like, oh my god, I'm so glad you're okay. Are you okay? Oh, I love you so much. Thank you, Deku. Thanks for waking up, Deku, and everything like that. And Melissa's just looking at him, happy because he's awake. That's when All Might walks in and is also glad about Deku being awake. Of course, he didn't wait in the room due to suspicion and all that. That's when All Might then tells Deku to meet him at the beach tonight. That's when All Might tells Deku to meet him at the beach tonight, which he does because Deku is let out straight away due to him not having any injuries, but he's told not to go to UA and instead enjoy the day due to him being, well, such a hero, blah 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 blah. And they just wanted him to enjoy the day because Melissa's there, who isn't usually there. So he goes out with Melissa after assuring his mum that he's okay and taking her home. Deku and Melissa both taking Midoriya home. The day goes by quick for the two, as Melissa is then sent home to Island to continue with her studies. So Deku sees her off and sees her off in the airport, cause of course, with her dad being Professor Shield, she's absolutely loaded, so she takes a private jet back to Island to continue with her studies like she kind of has to. And that's when he goes to the beach, as it is the night time, and All Might has asked him there. Where? I'm sorry. Right. So, Deku gets to the beach, and All Might straight away bows to say sorry. Then he starts going on about, "I'm sorry I wasn't there, Deku. I wasn't there in your time of need. I was too busy fighting other criminals, and I wasn't being a proper hero." That's when Deku nervously but impulsively says, You are a hero. You're the symbol of peace, and I understand that you were busy. I should be thanking you, Mr. Symbol of Peace." That's when All Might says, "Well, you call me the Symbol of Peace, but from what I've seen, I won't be the Symbol of Peace for long. Deku, yesterday you were a hero. You saved everyone. You helped everyone. You did something even I couldn't have done, and you helped the Nomu. You kept everybody safe, and of course Aizawa came out with minimal injuries, but let's be honest, it could have been a hell of a lot worse. He could have even, well, we won't think about that, but you taught the villains a lesson, and you almost did everything right. Though, I heard you need to work a bit on your smile." He chuckles in the heroic way he does. Deku, one thing you did miss at UA today is that the UA festival is coming up and it will be happening. One thing I do ask for you from the UA festival is that you face the crowd as a youngling hero, and as the up-and-coming symbol of peace, I want you to exclaim to the audience, and I want you to tell them that you are here. Deku then mumbles nervously, Isn't that your? All Might cuts him off. It was, but now it's ours. Deku, you're a hero. Of course, this means that next is the UA Fest. Hello, guys. If you're here, that means you've watched through it all. God knows how, because it was 2 hours long. But if you have, you have. That's absolutely fantastic. Now I've got to do the shameless plug. If you did enjoy it, like and subscribe. It helps me out a bunch. And I also feel like I should, well, talk about my channel for a bit. So if you don't know, this is just all my what ifs, all the what ifs I've done within the past week and a half, all just mashed into one big long one. This lowers the amount of time you've got to waste by switching through the playlists and blah 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 blah. It's just here to save view time, and of course, it does help me get views. But shh, that's my little sneaky trick. Yeah. So if you did watch this far, just comment down below. I don't know. Comment the word potato. I seem to be doing potato themed stuff with these words at the end of the video, and this is 2 hours long. And I'll comment, and honestly, if anyone comments potato, consider me over the moon, or over the potato, I guess. No, that don't work. That don't work. Anyway, this is me signing out. Thanks for sitting through this all. If you have, absolutely fantastic. Uh, uh, Thank you. I'm just over the moon. If you're at this point, I'm just over the moon. Right, I'm gonna stop wasting your time. You've already sat through 2 hours. If you do want more videos like this, maybe try watching another one of my what ifs. I think I have another 2 movies out or 1 movie out or something like that. But yeah. Anyway, thanks for being here. Absolutely fantastic. Enjoy life. You've already seen the video, so enjoy life. You're free. See ya. Yeah, again, thanks. I'm so sorry. Bye.